What's the most ridiculous thing you were bullied over and what prompted the bullying? Foreigner Forever said, one time in 3rd grade I farted really loud during silent reading time. Some kid nicknamed me Farticus, and it stuck for the rest of elementary school. Anthony83 said, this is sort of in the same vein, but a kid at my elementary school was bullied because he was bald. Because he was going through treatment for leukemia. That he died from, the next year. Kids are ruthless savages in large numbers. House Renovations said, one of the thing I look back on from HS and feel awful about decades later was a girl Marie who went to high school with me. We weren't friends, but she was in a couple of my classes. Freshman year, her mother committed suicide. We were told that Marie's mother passed away, but the truth somehow came out through the rumor mill. Marie missed about a week of school for services and to take time to move to her grandmother's house. Marie's dad wasn't in the picture, and when she came back, everyone ignored her. It wasn't out of malice, but we were kids who were horrified by something and had no idea how to even talk to Marie, so we just said nothing. Yikes. Marie stayed at the school for about 2 months after that and then ended up transferring to another school closer to her grandmother's house, where, I hope, people had no idea what happened to her mom and she could have a more normal high school experience. It still saddens my heart when I think about how scared, sad and isolated Marie must have felt during that time. Pineapple Leon said, here's another. In high school there was a douche that no one liked for good reason. Always mean to people, violent at times. My personal story was he tackled me from the side for literally no reason and my braces got stuck in my lip. Just all around a shitty person. One day he decided to bully a smaller guy in my year, but what he didn't know was the kid was going through some shit and was not about to let it happen. The smaller guy physically overwhelmed him, similar to how a small cat can overwhelm a person, took him to the ground and slammed his head against the wall a couple times. No blood or lasting damage or anything, but enough to get the bully to think about his actions a little more. The bully left that year or the year after. One good rib said, that was definitely jealousy from them, then. You getting bullied after you lost weight just reminded me one of Stephen King's inspirations for Carrie, a girl he went to elementary school with who wasn't from a well-off family at all, wore the same clothes to school every single day, like the same clothes. She didn't seem to have a second identical outfit. She gets bullied to hell over it. After winter break she comes to school with a new outfit that fits better, is clean, actually sort of stylish. She gets bullied harder for having the audacity to have gotten a new outfit after they were bullying her for wearing the same clothes all the time. Kids are stupid. Also, as far as I know, the girl did not destroy her town in a telekinetic rage. Brainus on Fire said, similar thing here. I was bullied constantly for 8 straight years, and one of the things was over my clothes, because I didn't have the latest brand stuff, and got most things secondhand or bargain basement places. Every day, I got interrogated about why I was wearing instead of. When I was 14, I saved, and bought one of the most beautiful outfits I'd ever seen from a trendy mall store, in a pattern that was unusual but very on trend. I wore it to school on Monday, and felt amazing. I even have a picture somewhere from that morning, because I was so happy. Hair and makeup were perfect, outfit was going to be the nicest one in school that day, everything was going to be better, right? Wrong. I got mocked endlessly for thinking you're so hot and everyone pointed out that X and Y colors looked stupid together, and the unusual pattern was stupid, and a week later, one of the popular girls shows up in a similar outfit, and pretty soon the color combo and pattern I wore that one day was what everyone was wearing. I learned a very important lesson from this, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Beepbor Pimajorp said, when I was in school, high waters are what people call jeans pants that were too small for the person wearing them, so they rode up to the person's ankle, calf, whatever. Baggy jeans, flares etc. were what was popular, and generally they'd always be long enough that they'd cover your shoes up to the tips, or completely in the case of chinkos. Even when sitting down. The assumption was that if someone was wearing high waters they were too poor to afford proper pants. It was stupid. Kids will find anything to bully over. Alex MSD said, my dad had just gotten back from PCS overseas. I, in 6th grade at the time, hadn't seen him in 2 years because the army kept him there for 2 years. He finally came back in 6th grade and surprised me by coming to my school for lunch. I saw him while in line going to the cafe and about broke the world record for the 40-yard dash to jump up and hug him. Normally this is normal in schools on base, however we lived off base where I went to school off base. Was relentlessly mocked for this and earned the title of Daddy's Boy. Got so bad that my parents had me move schools. Reasonable Reindeer said, I was the poor kid at an expensive private school populated predominantly by privileged white kids. My parents worked really hard to afford the tuition and we didn't have money for much else. Clothes came from Walmart, and shoes came from Payless. The school also did a thing where twice a year, they would haul out everything in Lost and Found and display it for a week in the gym during lunch so you could claim anything that was yours. This week was followed by Lost and Found Garage Sale Week where any unclaimed items from the week before could be purchased by anyone for 25 cents. In 5th grade, the fashion craze for guys was a brand called Z Cavarici. If you wore any pants other than calves, you were heckled mercilessly for being poor. I begged and begged my mom to buy me a pair. Just one pair that I promised to wash every night and wear again the next day. I don't know how she pulled it off, but she got me a brand new pair. I almost hated removing the tags because it was the only new, name brand item of clothing I had ever owned in my life up to that point. Reasonable Reindeer said, I was so excited to wear them the next day. I imagine finally being accepted by the rich guys, or at least no longer being heckled for being poor. I didn't have to wait long. Because as soon as I entered the classroom, I heard one of the kids whisper to his friends, dude, check it out, Reasonable Reindeer is wearing calves. I must have had the most smugly satisfied expression a 5th grader can have, but it was short-lived, because his friend quickly offered an explanation. I think those are mine, he probably bought them from Lost and Found for $1. I have never gone from feeling so elated to so devastated in my life. And I never asked my mom for anything expensive again. Mostly Gray said, I got picked on for the normal things. I'm a heavy-set guy so obviously I got called fat at but I wouldn't call it bullying. I am fat, to be fair. I do have a funny story about a ridiculous bullying thing that my buddy ran into. We were sitting in class and a group of jocks were picking on my buddy and me. Normal stuff. Then, when my buddy stood up to one of them, the bully apparently lost his mind. Now, keep in mind my friend had a yellow spot on his tooth because the blood vessels run shallow there. My mom is the same thing. It's totally normal. So, we'll call him Z, says to my friend, don't touch me frickin' buttertooth. Immediately, all his clique turned on him. It was like sharks all killing the weak one. They all started laughing their asses off and started making fun of Z. Buttertooth? What the hell kind of an insult is that? It's not even an insult. He can't control if he has a yellow spot on his tooth. Speaking of being a loser, why don't you ever bench at the gym? All you do is sit-ups. Sure you have a six-pack but your arms are toothpicks. They spent the next 10 minutes berating him about his physical fitness, appearance, behavior, and intelligence. It was hilarious. He shut up after that. Proof Performance 74 said, I still remember this clearly. When I was 4 years old, 2009, I used to be bullied over my hairstyle. My hair was quite long at the time so my mom would pull off awesome hairstyles. When I started at the preschool shit would go down. Guys would bully me for having a man bun as it was feminine and would go as far as vandalizing my stuff, to a point where a few kids were expelled after cutting up my bun and cut my t-shirt to a point where the school had to give me a proprietary t-shirt and was held back a year after I was stabbed with Sisker in the thigh, back, had my skull dented and needed metal therapy for a while. I'm 15 years old and I'm doing great at the time of this post. For your information, it was a South African private school. Shinny Hapaket said, I was bullied because I didn't know that queer meant anything other than odd. I grew up with much older parents, went to boarding school age 7-11, didn't hear a swear word until I was 12. I had a life wrapped in cotton wool, and the only time I'd heard the word queer was to describe something as odd. I went to a normal state school, UK, when I was 12 and stuck out like a sore thumb. Clipped posh English accent amongst the local accent. I got picked on. But by far the worst was when I said something was queer, and 2 older girls heard me. They made my life hell for a few months, and I had to report them. My parents got a letter home stating that I had bullied the girls. Homophobic bullying was the exact phrase. Bizarre, especially at this point, I didn't even know what gay was. Luckily my parents ignored it, and didn't believe I was bullying anyone. Ended up okay, they moved on to someone else. And I came out as a lesbian 7 years later. My friends still find it hilarious that I was reported for homophobic bullying for using the word queer. Kenshin X 212 said, I got bullied for being a passive black kid in middle school between 2011 to 2013. These three guys, white, started it off by relating me to black stereotypes. They would say things like my favorite food must be fried chicken, that I must run fast, or that I must have a big sklong lol. These didn't really bother me that much, but the more they said it, the more annoyed and uncomfortable I got. One time, I got annoyed by them saying it. They saw the serious look on my face, and they said, it's just a joke, bro. I thought, maybe they are just joking. Maybe I'm just being too sensitive. Since then, I would nervously chuckle whenever they said these things, but the bullying just got worse. In history class, we were learning about the Jim Crow laws and racism in the 1950s. So these guys started using those new racist terms towards me to see my reaction. They would sometimes call me a Negro, they would sometimes call me a Pickaninny and try to get me to imitate the image, which I refused. Even when I drank from the water fountain they would pretend to be disgusted so they would then drink from another water fountain. Eventually, they started calling me the N-word, with the R. Kenshin X 212 said, I was shocked. I wasn't nervously giggling like I did before, but they continued to call me it because they found my shocked reaction funny. Some of my other classmates would hear it and they were shocked as well, but because of my passive behavior, they eventually started calling me the N-word too to see my reaction. Those guys pretty much influenced most of my classmates in middle school to call me the N-word for the giggles. Worst part of it all, they even influenced my best friends to call me the N-word. One time, one of my best friends, I'll say his name is Michael, Asian, accidentally said it too loud and my teacher, white, overheard it. My teacher got angry and called Michael outside the class to scold him. Eventually, my teacher called me outside the class with Michael to ask for context. I practically begged my teacher to not punish Michael, because he was my best friend. My teacher was really confused as to why I was defending a person who just called me the N-word, but he just let it slide because I didn't want Michael to get in trouble. The part that hurt me the most though was when I was picking up iPads from another homeroom class. A female classmate, who is my neighbor at home, Susan, was confused as to why I was in her homeroom class. But then she proceedingly joked by saying, Kenshin X 212 said, go back to Africa. She said it loud enough to where most of the back of the class heard it, but the front of the class didn't hear it, including the teacher. The class shouted, ooh. I don't know why that hit me so hard back then. I almost cried right on the spot. This whole passive-aggressive racism just made me really depressed in middle school and it absolutely killed my self-esteem in high school and onward. Not to mention, there were other black kids in my middle school but they didn't pull that racist crap towards them because they knew they would get beaten lol. Edgar said, my new sneakers not being new enough. When I was a kid I got bullied a lot by this one kid named Miguel growing up. His family was a lot better off and spoiled him, buying him the latest shoes, starter jackets, video games, etc. He was always showing it off and especially liked to rub it into my face. My parents both worked 2 jobs to try and provide a decent life for me growing up, but money was tight. Most of my clothes I either got from the thrift store or they were hand-me-downs from my older cousins. I remember one day my parents decided to treat me and take me to the Nike outlet and get a pair of brand new sneakers. This was the first pair of shoes I had in a long time that were all mine and never worn by anyone else. I remember being so excited to wear them to school and walked into the classroom with a big smile that day. Miguel takes one look at my shoes and says, nice new, old shoes. I had a pair of those last year when they were cool. With a few words he completely crushed the happiness high I was riding and brought me down instantly. D4 Days said, did you try beating his ass? I went through this with a kid named Ander. He was a jerk to everyone, but no one pressed him on it. He called me poor. More pointedly, he said shut up, you're poor. I calmly told him we were gonna go outside. The teacher just raised an eyebrow and said nothing. He looked mortified and I realized he wasn't going to fight so I had to take the momentum. I said you talked down to me, but I'm smarter than you. You called me poor but you live in a trailer, You talk shit but you won't step outside, will you? He just stuttered and told me to calm down. I wish this was an option as an adult. I work in retail so I would be going rounds every week or so. Mother of Dragonfly said. Same thing happened to me. I was the youngest and only girl of 5 so I didn't really get hand-me-downs, but I never got name brand stuff. Growing up during the era where everyone was obsessed with brand suit, my mom finally took me to some outlet stores for my birthday and I was so excited to get name brand skate shoes and was immediately made fun of because they were last year's shoes. Edit. Also remember a friend of mine getting a really cute bathing suit from Target and I was excited because there was finally something affordable that my rich friends found acceptable so my mom bought me one in a different color. We ended up both wearing our suits to another friend's swim party and the mom called me low class for buying the same suit. Edgar said. When I was about 8 years old I was at home bored one day. I decided to take a look at this pocket knife my parents had bought as a thank you gift for one of the people at the after-school program I was attending. I opened up the tools one by one to check them out and when I got to the knife I wasn't paying attention and ended up closing it on my thumb. At first I thought it was nothing, but then blood started pouring out and I realized it was a bad cut and started to panic. I ran to the bathroom and started screaming for my dad who was outside working on the car. I ran water over my thumb, but the blood just kept coming and coming. Eventually my dad came, calmed me down, and had me put pressure on it. It was a pretty deep cut, but he didn't think I needed to go to the hospital. By the time my mom got back everything was okay and I was just a little shaken. She bandaged me up really well and then went to Walgreens for something. When she came back she had a box of finger cots, which I had never seen before. She put one on my thumb and told me it would help me heal faster by keeping the bandage in place. Edgar said. She had me wear it to school the next day and I was all ready to tell my classmates about how crazy the cut was and how badly I was bleeding. I was young and had no idea what a condom was or even what it was used for so I was very naive. However, the kids that liked to bully me weren't and soon as they saw my thumb they screamed out, "Edgar's got a condom in his finger." Either everyone but me knew what a condom was or people were just going along with it because the entire class started laughing at me. I was so embarrassed, I ran to the bathroom crying and ripped off the finger cot. When I got home that night I asked my mom why she would do that to me and her excuse was that she didn't think anyone would even know what a condom was and it was going to help me heal faster. She didn't make me wear it to school again, but the damage was already done and I was made fun of that for a while. Spinach Spinosaurus said. Disclaimer, I have been bullied before, so this was just a new method they tried. My mom being a cleaning lady in some apartment complex some of my classmates lived. She lost her job, took this one since she had no real qualification, this is in the 90s, and it was well paid back then. One girl came to me, all ugly smiling and proclaimed so, "Your mom is a cleaner right now." Side note, he used a derogatory word for cleaner in my native language. I just looked at her and didn't he said anything pretty much ignored her. She then turned around, fitting for a loser like you. I have seen her in my apartment complex, cleaning the floors. This is when I decided I stopped this bull right there and then, yeah, she's cleaning apartment complexes. So what? She's doing something you could do all by yourself, but instead, you and the people living there decided to be the filthy lazy ass and let others do the work. Besides, she has a job. Right after she lost her last one. Do your parents have one? Because last time I heard, they are both home prefer to be leech of the state instead of doing the same job as my mom does. Just because they think it's below them. Am I wrong? No. Then shut up at once and stop bullshitting over it, cause your parents leeching of my mom. Spinach Spinosaurus said. Side note, it's pretty regular in my country, at least back then. People living within a complex cleaned their own floor and the stairs leading to the next upper and lower floor. Was common sense. Nowadays it's getting less and less done by the inhabitants. Back then, from what I heard about my mom's job, it was only 2 types of customers, offices, and the likes, and apartment complexes whose inhabitants were, well, more of the lower ladder of society. I heard her complain a lot about piss on floors, walls, even poop, vomit, all sorts of trash lying around. Burnt stuff, after New Year's Eve even fireworks, rockets and other stuff like that, all sorts of non-human fluids lying around. Some floors were worse than others, some floors were clean, only had occasional problems, like dog poop, or stuff lying on the floor. Over time, Mom got to know the inhabitants and funnily, this is how we got our dog. That's an unrelated story, but the 90s in my part of the country's seen a crisis at the job market. Which is why she wasn't very picky. That job literally ruined her health, as she has now severe back pain and is in need of a new hip. TLDR, Mom worked as a cleaner and some classmate tried to shame me over it. Shamed her over the fact I didn't care and for thinking this kind of work is below her and everyone else. She shut up real quick and the matter was never brought up by anybody ever again. Trasserder00 Pet said, when I started in year 7 I joined some popular boys playing to get down first to put the other on the floor wins. I played against a few but there was this one boy who was saying, oh I won't play you because you're too easy. His friends began pressing him to go against me and, plot twist, I hit him down in 30 seconds. This prompted years of him bullying me. He was a bit more popular than me so I couldn't just chat $hit without losing friends so I ignored him. I got my chance for revenge when he joined the school rugby where I had been playing for 3 years and took every opportunity to give him hell. Last I saw he fell into county line stealing, no doubt to be in debt for the rest of his life. Beep4Pimajorp said, we had some stupid school play in middle school where everyone in our grade would play the part of a royal court and drew lots to determine our roles in it. I was as awkward and nerdy as it got in middle school. Child of a struggling single mother so not exactly wealthy. Puberty hit me hard so I had boobs but also horrible acne. It was awful. Because the universe likes to pull cosmic jokes, I ended up drawing the role of queen, for this stupid play I didn't even want to participate in, that the entire grade was putting on, and that every parent would come see. So I had to awkwardly dress like a queen, sit at a table with a king for the entire play and say like 5 lines. Again, had no choice in this matter, we drew the lots randomly. I remember one day I was walking across the lunchroom with my lunch and this kid stood up on his chair and was like, there goes Beep4Pimajorp, the fake queen of our grade. And everyone started laughing. I think I ended up just sitting down at my table in shame and crying. Again, did nothing to cause this except be poor, ugly, and unlucky. And I was severely depressed at the time, so knowing my entire grade hated me really made me want to go home and swallow a bottle of pills. Thank the sweet Lord for video games and books for keeping me alive and sane during that time period. Beep4Pimajorp said, I grew up, filled in, and had a lot of good times in high school and college. Now I'm in my 30s and really enjoying the life I've built for myself. But that memory still pops into my head every once in a while. I don't even remember the name of the boy who did it, but I do still think he's a giant piece of shit for doing it. I mean I had a shitty home life with a parent that screamed at me on the daily and somehow I managed to not bully and taunt people while I was in school. So while the situation irks me, at least I know I wasn't a piece of shit to others around me despite my life sucking at the time. So that's the silver lining to it, I guess. As for the play, it was just as great as you can imagine a play put on by middle schoolers could be. I.e. terrible. The teachers wouldn't let me drop out of it and I seriously considered claiming I was sick the night of the play itself but I went and faced my demons. I'm pretty sure my mom didn't even show up for it and I had to get the ride with a friend's family lol. Mark Zuckerberg said, so in secondary school I was bullied by a very large group of guys in the year above and there was literally never a reason for it. I never interacted with them and then one day I guess they just decided they didn't like me and they would try to provoke me for years. I was never severely bullied I wouldn't say. These guys would just sort of belittle people everywhere they went and they just kind of gave me a bit more shit than they gave to others. It's funny though because one time maybe a year after I'd left school, one of these guys came up to me after I got beat up at a party and told me he'd defend me if it ever happened again. I told him to go fuck himself, and it felt great. Also most of these dudes are in jail now so that's nice too. Scribblywitch 994 said, my ears. The school bully was such a twat. He'd call me Elephant and Dumbo whenever I tucked my hair behind them. So then I just stopped. The comments died down a little but I became self-conscious ever since. That was when I was a kid though. I'm an adult now and it feels good to have the confidence to tuck my hair behind my ears and not have it fly everywhere in the wind. Who's gonna tell me I look stupid now? Little Alex from year 5? Huh? The last time someone commented on my ears, They said they looked kinda elf-like. I take that as a compliment because it means I look similar to Princess Zelda and she is a very strong character and I love her. Betsuentware said. Oof, where do I begin? Kids used to call me malnourished in HS since I was very skinny. I actually had a lot of trouble gaining weight when I was younger. This obviously made me want to gain weight, so I really tried, but obviously getting older and my metabolism slowing down was really the only thing that helped. I was really happy when I gained weight because I was made fun of so much for being too skinny, but then when I gained weight, people made fun of me for being fat. Which is insane because I was still skinny, I was just a normal weight compared to being underweight. Needless to say, I have BDD now. I was also made fun of for being in band in school, which still confuses me to this day. Being a musician is a literal skill and not easy, but yet all the band kids that were actually good at band were made fun of? I still do music and I'm in a band and I'm proud of what we've done, so I've really never understood this one. Betsuentware said. I was very unpopular in school, but it was quite literally for no reason. I grew up with the same people from kindergarten through 12th grade, so if you did anything weird in kindergarten, you were socially exiled your entire time at school. I think in kindergarten I was very shy, so maybe that's why? Anyways, there were a few popular kids that befriended me along the way because they weren't complete assholes, but their friends would say to them, I don't get why you're friends with her. Many more stories, but these were the more general ones that made little sense to me. Glad to report that everyone I went to HS with is pretty pathetic and still lives in my lame hometown and is doing nothing with their lives while I'm living what I consider to be a pretty cool, successful life. Tons of people who made fun of me in HS have tried dating me after graduation, tried befriending me, have come to my shows, etc., and in those moments, I do kind of feel like I won. And it's a great feeling reading those messages, seeing them and ignoring them.